Hello, everyone. Very good morning to all of you. Uh, okay, we have people joining in slowly. All right. Well, good to connect with you once again on this weekend for the Azure Design Patterns, a quick discussion on the Azure Design Patterns to share knowledge and to make it interactive with few architectural discussions as well. So this is going to be a continuation of what we have been discussing on the previous session, which was about on Azure Design Patterns again. So we were speaking generally about the availability. We were speaking about how you need to design your architecture when you move towards the cloud environment, right? We were speaking about availability set. We were speaking about availability zones. So the design patterns is like Microsoft gives you a general idea on how we can put up your architecture on the cloud environment. So they have their design patterns with the architecture, the Azure Architecture Center separately for data management. We need to go with a separate designing and maintainability for messaging solutions. We also have like design and implementations, right? So it depends. It depends on multiple tracks that we have. And the second part that today we are going to discuss will be in a touch base with your SAP on cloud. Okay. So before getting on to this, I would like to know if you people have heard about SAP or if you have been working with SAP or are you in a plan of migrating SAP workloads towards the cloud environment? Is there anyone here who has been working with SAP? Do we have someone here who is working with SAP? All right. Okay. So let me give you a quick introduction. Okay. So this I've been probably some 30 or 45 minutes we're going to speak about the SAP on Azure. See, here is going to be on the next 1 hour that we'll be discussing on. I'm here about to discuss on how we can get your SAP workloads to Azure and what are the common terminologies and meanings that you need to understand, right, when we move with SAP. You also need to know about the SAP certified configurations and the architecture that can be used to deploy the different components that we have in SAP. We will also be speaking about the S4 component, SAP S4HANA, which gives you a general high availability of the environment that can support with the DR environment to be on Azure. So before getting on to this, you should have heard about SAP, right? SAP is said to be like it stands for the data processing with systems, application, and the products. So it's gonna be like a software which provides you more like a ERP system that you get. You can maintain your products, you can maintain your applications at one stand, right? And the SAP goes on with more like enterprise resource planning to be done within an organization or to call with the department to access and share some common data within your work environment. So here we will start with exploring this Azure for SAP workloads. Okay, probably I would say this is going to be the lesson one. And this also has a touch base when you try to attend the certification track, which is said to be with SAP on cloud. Okay, it's the certification track course code is said to be AC120 that we have. All right. So here in this explore Azure for SAP workloads, you'll make sense about the SAP architecture, right? And you'll also be seeing about how to leverage the components to design scalable, performant, and resilient SAP deployments in the Azure environment. I would say the key takeaway here is to identify the prerequisites that you need to know for running your SAP workloads in Azure. So let me set the basic introductions to understand the SAP, the components that we have in SAP, the products that we have in SAP, the SAP certified offerings, and followed by that, we'll be having an architecture discussion. Okay. So here let's start with discovering the SAP and the Microsoft partnership that we have been working on. SAP and Microsoft has a long-term, I would say, a long time history of working together in a strong partnership that has their mutual benefits for their customers. So Microsoft is constantly working on updating its platform and submitting some new certification details to SAP in order to ensure Microsoft Azure is said to be the best platform on which you can run the SAP workloads. So with this expanded partnership that we have between Microsoft and SAP, you can just go up, you can run SAP applications across the dev, test, and the prod scenarios in Azure. And we also have like other Microsoft components which can get involved as well. As I said before, you will hear, understand, and communicate about the risks that we have in the SAP, okay, and Azure to automate the workloads. So see here is the statement of Satya, saying that it's like building on long-time partnership. We are moving into Microsoft Azure to host the SAP workloads there. So we have like any recent products or the DB compatibilities where Microsoft provides helps and the integrations that are available to support or working or running the workloads on the Azure cloud environment. Here is you need to know about meeting SAP or Azure customers. So Microsoft has their customers who are said to be on retail, who are said to be with automobile, chemical industries, right? Mining, shell, automobile or oil, gas industries. And we do have like IT industries or service sectors like Accenture, Sanko, all these people who have been the customers of Microsoft for SAP on Azure. Let's make sense with it, the options that we have, right? See, SAP with Azure helps you to host the workloads. You can explore like when you use Microsoft Azure, you can reliably run your mission critical SAP workloads and scenarios on a scalable, compliant, and enterprise proven platform here. So end of the day, you get the scalability, flexibility, and cost savings of Azure. And with this expanded partnership between Microsoft and SAP, you can run SAP applications across dev and test and prod scenarios in Azure, and it can be like fully supported as well. It can be from SAP NetWeaver to SAP S4HANA or SAP Business Intelligence to run on Linux and Windows, or let's say SAP HANA to SQL as well. You see here we have like three products, probably I would say SAP NetWeaver, we do have SAP HANA and SAP HANA on Azure that can be run on cloud. So NetWeaver is that for organizations that needs compute and storage resource for their SAP NetWeaver applications, they need to achieve a design pattern in a minimal time, right? And there should be nothing like without any lengthy procurement cycles that gets involved. So the solution is said to be like we need to use Azure VMs. Just taking the same discussion what we had by last week, we can put up availability set, we can put up availability zones, right, which makes sure that there'll be like a minimal downtime that we have for the machines. So I can use Azure VMs to deploy classical applications like SAP NetWeaver based applications in Azure. We then have the SAP HANA. So in Azure, there are like two services that can be used to run the HANA database. One is set to be with Azure VMs, and the other one is set to be SAP HANA on Azure with a large instance. The Azure Virtual Machine is like for running SAP HANA, SAP has more and stronger conditions infrastructure that needs to meet their running NetWeaver or other SAP applications and database management systems. So end of the day, it's going to be like a smaller number of Azure VMs, which qualifies for running the SAP HANA database management system. We also have like a list of supported Azure infrastructure, which supports for SAP HANA that can be found in the SAP HANA directory, hardware directory. We then have the SAP HANA on Azure large instance. So it's a unique solution to Azure, and it's like a top of it providing virtual machines for deploying and running SAP HANA. Azure here offers you the possibility to run and deploy SAP HANA on bare metal servers that are dedicated for it. So the SAP HANA on Azure is going to be like a solution that builds on non-shared host or a server with bare metal hardware that's assigned to you. We then have like Microsoft components that you need to know. See, let's say the partnership between SAP and Microsoft is set to be stronger. The reason is that it helps in hosting the infrastructure right from a Teams communication, or it might be like security that you speak about, hosting applications, right? Anything that we have. So here you see it gives you a complete A to Z integrations from Azure AD on which you can do security with authentication. You can integrate Office apps as well. It might be Office 365 or the complete Microsoft 365 family related to Power Apps or related to Power Automate, Teams, anything. We do have like Logic Apps. The Logic Apps is where we can put up like Dynamics 365. We can also have Salesforce all integrated. And thereon, we do have like Power BI. The Power BI provides you with analysis service, or we can have like AI or ML components to be integrated here. We do have ML and Databricks solutions that can be added up, and system with Data Factory or Data Catalog and partner solutions. Data. So this data is said to be important, right? You go with a SQL, I mean integration with SAP, or you can even say like we have any DB. Okay, any DB is like one another component which we most probably use, and we do have like I mean Oracle database which can be integrated as well. So we have like a cluster. We have like a multiple flavors of databases that are available which can be integrated. And finally, the streaming. So streaming is like you go with IoT Hub or you go with IoT Edge, Event Hub, right? All these things can be used for streaming the data there. Here are the advantages of Azure for SAP. So it provides you reliability, right? I'm here again speaking about the uh, I mean the flexibilities, right? And the design pattern ideologies that you need to know here. So discovering the advantages is said to be like you can run your mission critical workloads. It provides you scalability. So scalable, compliant, and enterprise. Okay, let's even leave the enterprise. Anyhow, you're gonna check about the enterprise pattern agreements that we have before you stick on to cloud. But scalability and compliant is said to be one of a major factor that you need to know for the design patterns. You need to scale based on the I mean the downtime or based on the availability that you're looking for. You need to give the better flexibility for your customers, and you also need to make sure that it meets the compliant requirements for the customers as well. We then have like you can run SAP applications. It can be related to test or dev, or let's say for the prod scenarios as well in Azure. We then have SAP, which can be moved up. We can try like deploying SAP on Azure supported systems. So here you see like we can go up with the Azure supported systems to build an inventory, or we can even then migrate the servers and data. So we have the support. When you say NetWeaver, you can have the DB with any DB, and it's all the supported operating systems that we have. We would not be able to share the deck, provided you can get the recording for this. But then, if you are working with SAP and if you want to know the compatibility that we have or support that we have, you just take a running notes of this, please. The operating system support and the database for SAP NetWeaver is listed up here. You can go with any DB, or you can even move on with OS like Linux and Windows Server. We then have the HANA, the SAP HANA here. So SAP HANA support is like again you go with a VM or you go with a HANA large instance. Okay, for running SAP HANA, SAP has more and stronger conditions infrastructure that needs to meet for running NetWeaver or other SAP applications and databases. So here the DB support is said to be with HANA, and the OS is said to be like you can have Red Hat, or you can even go with SUSE Enterprise Linux over here. So end of the day, SAP HANA is going to be with a database. You will be connecting with on-prem, or you can even connect with the cloud environment, right? Or let's say you can have the hybrid cloud with a combination of both on-prem and the Azure cloud. The features are like you can have the text processing, you can do analytics, okay, you can process the data in memory, and we do have like a single copy of the enterprise data which can be achieved, and that provides you with a support for hybrid transactional and analytical processing here. You have the complete data integration capabilities, and the quality is set to be the connectors, right? The outputs that we have. So those things are set to be resolved by Microsoft. Most SAP products goes with utilize the new database layer here. So any questions for me on the introductory part of SAP with Azure? Let's make it interactive, please. Any questions for me? All right. Okay. The next is set to be the common terminologies and the meanings that we have for ACP on Azure. See here, we have like landscape, we do have system, environment, component, and like any DB that's available, which you need to know. Landscape is that it refers to the entire SAP assets in your IT landscape. The SAP landscape includes like all prod and non-prod environments. We then have system. System is said to be like the combination of DB layer and the app layer. Let's say, for example, an SAP ERP development system and an SAP business warehouse test system, or I would even say an SAP CRM, right? A CRM prod system can also be called as a general system here. Environment refers to one or more SAP components which is logically grouped to perform a business function. Let's say it can be like a development or it can be a quality assurance, training, disaster recovery, or the production environment here. We also have the component. So it's an individual SAP application such as ERP central component. Okay, we call it as ECC in short. We do have like business warehouse, BW, or we can go with solution manager or enterprise portal EP. And the ACP components can be based on traditional ABAP or Java technologies or a non NetWeaver based applications such as business objects here. So then we have like any DB. Any DB is like any third party database chosen to run SAP. So a non HANA workloads to be used here. We then have the SAP landscapes. So we put up the SAP landscape. We have a it's almost like a way of organizing SAP servers into different layers that are defined on how the system can be deployed with the landscapes of. So here it's going to be general. You put up the landscape and you make sense about how it can be deployed with SAP NetWeaver on any DB with the Azure virtual machines. It can be related to the dev, quality assurance, or we can even put it towards a prod environment. We also have like smaller implementations, which can have two, or we have like a larger, which may have four or more as well here. And your SAP landscape is often like a hybrid from a database management in a SAP application point of view. So the next is set to be the certified configurations that we have, right? And here you need to make sense about the licensing that we have for SAP software to be deployed. You also need to know about the system sizing. Okay, you can check with the general quota all. And we have the certified VMs which can be spinned up for SAP systems. And you also need to see about the sufficient network connectivity if you have to connect with SAP, since it's going to be like a CRM kind of stuff. No, you need a good bandwidth, and you also need to make sure that you don't have a latency and package loss here. The next that we have is to be the certified operating system on which you'll be checking it. You have like SAP workloads which will be deployed. You need to check like SUSE, you have Red Hat Enterprise, right? We do have like Windows support as well. So you need to check about the different database and the OS support that we used to get from the SAP workloads. So this is a general first step that you need to walk through before sticking on towards the SAP workloads on cloud. And followed by this, we have the support agreement with the cloud provider. Check for what's the promising time that Microsoft gives you to, I would say the promising time that Microsoft gives you for the SLA, for DR. Okay, we need to check all those things. It's not it's important in the design patterns. It might be related to any CSP that you stick towards. It's not just like Azure, right? You speak about like you move for AWS or you move for GCP, anything. When you design your cloud pattern, you need to check for the promise that the CSP is going to give up for you. The design patterns is moreover like it's common. It's same for any cloud service provider that we speak about. We then have the support agreement with the cloud provider. I've been followed by this. We have the technical experience. You need to check with your team on the technical experience that they have with SAP systems and whether they have the capability to work with a cloud provider like Azure or AWS as well. So now here the point is that you should be knowing about, let's take the same instance. No, you should be already knowing about availability. You need to know about the availability zones. You need to know about VM skill set, what a virtual machine is, what a load balancer is, what a traffic manager is, right? If you could know all those things, then you're good with the technical experience, right? And then you will also be making sense about the SAP systems, like the different certified configurations that we have in the SAP systems. And with that, you should be good to move towards the cloud environment then. We then have Azure for SAP solutions. So here it's like you get to know about the SAP product, OS, the database support, all that we used to get. Now I'm getting into the major discussion here. So here is about the three main options that we have to host the SAP workloads on the cloud. Generally, you move on with the general purpose workloads. We have like NetWeaver certified, or we even go with HANA certified, where now it's available. It's general available now. We have a EV3 kind of machines where it's going to provide you with a bare metal server. We then have like NetWeaver and HANA certified machines, which are said to be G series machines. That's said to be a bit costly. And to use all these machines, I mean, leave the D series, okay? But when you go for E or G series kind of machines, you need to check with Microsoft on the quota, okay? And maybe if you are going to host the workloads in a permanent way, or let's say you're going to host it for probably the next 3 years or 5 years at the Azure cloud, then you can get the enterprise agreement with Microsoft. You get a cost cut off on it, okay? So make sure before you stick on with all these things, we make sense about what's the customer sense on running SAP related to cloud. Okay. And finally, the SaaS environments is also like ready available. You get the built-in production workloads. Built-in SAP instance that's available, and you can put your production workloads just generally over the cloud there. It's almost like a lift and shift kind of methodology that we used to work. And here is the supported virtual machine. You can take a note of, these things, SAP Note, right? You can Google for it, where you can find the Azure VM kinds that's supported there. And we also have the operating system support. We have Windows Server, which starts from 2008. R2 Data Center goes on up to 2019. We then have SUSE with the Linux Enterprise Server and the higher versions. And followed by that, the SUSE for SAP applications and the Red Hat Enterprise, okay, and the Red Hat Enterprise again for SAP HANA. Finally, the Oracle Linux support as well. And next, the design pattern that you need to know for the SAP products. See, here we have for SAP software, the business suite that's available for software. You can go with guest OS with Windows or SUSE with Linux Enterprise. And we do have the support with the relation database all. And here is all like the size of VMs that we can use. I could say that this is a continuity of the Azure availability sessions which we had, the design pattern one. So the size of the machines we have been already discussing in the previous session, speaking about traffic managers, speaking about availability sets, so on all, about the different sizes of machines. So you should be known with this. And here you're just to make sense with this table on the guest OS and the relation database support that we have. See, as I said before, Microsoft is constantly updating its platform and submitting new certification details to SAP in order to ensure that Microsoft Azure is said to be the best platform on which you can run the SAP workloads. So again, this table is moreover the same. It represents about the Azure supported configurations and the list of all growing SAP certifications that we have here. So this list is set to be an overview that might, I mean, like it might even get deviated. So you need to check with Microsoft's product page catalog about the design patterns and how it goes on, okay, for the certified offerings. Here is for the other products that we have too. The next that we have here is the NetWeaver with NEDB. So here I will stick on towards the architecture. See, this is said to be the reference architecture that we have, okay, related to the small and the production development workloads that we have. So this shows a set of proven practices for running SAP NetWeaver in Windows environment on Azure with high availability. Can you see this availability set? So that's exactly the design pattern. The database is said to be NEDB, and the SAP term for any supported database management system is said to be like beside SAP HANA that we'll be discussing on. Uh, I would generally say that this is going to be like a lightning talk, and design patterns we are planning it to be a huge one. Okay, related to IoT, related to SAP like that. We are starting from the giant, which is said to be SAP, and we also have like a demo session followed by this. I mean, not today, but then the next series of session that we have probably in the next month. We'll be planning for a demo session with SAP on Azure. So probably like you could make sense with this lightning talk and the architecture implementation. We'll be having it on the next session. Then. Let's go up here. See, this image shows SAP NetWeaver in a Windows environment in an availability set scenario. The architecture here that we use is said to be Azure NetApp files for the shared files, file layers, and a proximity placement group for improved performance as well. Let me go up here. See, the first thing that we have is that we you should be knowing this already. We put up a VNet, right? We also put up like a subnet all, and we then have like you see the jump box of the virtual machines that we used to host. We have like AD domain controllers that we deploy, and SAP central servers, service clusters, and the application servers that we can host. To make sense again with the availability, we are using load balancers that we have been discussing in the previous series. And availability set is also to ensure that we put up a high availability in case if there is like a planned or unplanned maintenance that we used to carry up there. We also have the network security group. The NSG is said to be like, which speaks about the incoming and the outgoing traffics on the server machines that we have. And followed by that, we have the disks and the Azure storage on which we can host it for the virtual machines. Finally, the express route. The express route is said to be the component like generally express route is for the hybrid cloud and for the extended bandwidth that we can get it across, right? We can also put it on the gateways to communicate with. And here is said to be a sample functional workflow for SAP NetWeaver on SQL. So this NetWeaver on SQL Server application solution will illustrate on how a user request flows through an SAP landscape, right? An SAP landscape built on NetWeaver using Azure virtual machines to host the SAP applications on the SQL Server database. So this system takes advantage of voice clustering for high availability, premium storage for faster storage performance and scalability, and SQL Server like with always on capability for replication and a full DR configuration for 99.95% of system availability. You see, we have like AB, I mean ABAP, or you can use ASES. ASES is your ABAP SAP Central Services, and ABAP is the Advanced Business Application Programming tool that we use as well. And apart from that, we have SAS. SAS is the SaaS application server that can be hosted on. Here is about examining the S4 HANA. Again, this reference architecture defines on a common production system. It puts up your VNet and all those things, but then you see we have the web dispatcher tool that we'll be using. We also have the application server pool and the SAP Central Service as well. So this architecture is deployed with VM sizes that can be changed to accommodate your organization's needs. And it's going to be like it shoots your business needs, and this configuration can be reduced to a single virtual machine as well. The network layout is greatly simplified to demonstrate the architectural principles, and it's not intended to describe a full enterprise network as well. You see, the components are set to be moreover same. We put it on a proximity placement group, or we can put it on a VWT set load balancer that we use. Just the components, right? The VM can be using a jump box, or you can put up like a Fiori front ends overall. So that's like a point of making sense with the different S4 HANA or SAP NetWeaver that we'll be deploying on. Here is the sample functional workflow for you to make sense. We first go with the user initiating a sales data via the SAP Fiori, and the traffic flows with help of the express route. Then, okay, it goes on with the express route. And we also have the sales order request, which reaches the central services. And there on the request reaches the SAP HANA. The data changes are also set to be replicated synchronously. And it's then like it persists to the disk, and it replicates asynchronously. We have the DR instance as well that we'll be putting on just to make sure in case if there's an outage, right? That's the design pattern. That's the design pattern which helps you to put up the high availability. So the design pattern is more like it reads the DR instance of SQL Server, and the changes are replicated asynchronously to the ACS DR instance. So this is all like what you need to know, right? It's a quite lightning talk that we had with 30 minutes, and I would like to hear from you if you have any questions. Any questions for me? Let's make it interactive, please. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, I'm not sure if you people have been working with SAP or if it's new to you. Okay, in case if you're new to you, I request you to go for SAP on Azure. Okay, let's share this link with MS Docs, or you can surf with MS Learn, right? You see introduction to Azure for SAP Workloads. So go with this. Okay. I'll be communicating. I'll see with Kasam on what could be the next track that we can plan for. We were actually like thinking about to cover SAP as it's going to be like a hot topic that we have. And once when we are done with this, we were thinking about to move for like IoT based workloads all. But then let's see if you, I mean, if the repeated audience track is set to be generally on a different track, then we will move for a common like to put up a web application or anything rather than the SAP part. Okay. Any questions for us? Let's make it interactive, please. Okay, I'll be holding on here for another like 5 minutes to see if you have any questions.